Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. With me, as always, Mark Goldhart. How are you?
Doing great.
Good, sir.
What?
Oh, I said, how are you? And then you said, doing great. And I said, good, sir. I hadn't finished. And then you said,
Oh,
what?
you were already answering my question back to you?
No, I was calling you a good sir. Like,
oh,
how are you,
were
good
saying,
sir?
how are you, good sir?
Kind of like me saying, how are you, Mark? But instead of saying Mark, you're good.
I'm a good sir.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so nothing. Yeah.
A little official.
It's been a minute since we've podcast. Sorry, everybody.
Has it? 2 weeks?
It has, yeah. It has been 2 weeks where we haven't had an episode, and I set a goal to do one every single week, and we missed it. But
that's an average, though.
Yeah, that is true. I set a goal to do 52 episodes in a year.
Yeah.
And we will. We will.
Sometimes you gotta play to the average.
We've been
miss
known,
a week, do 2.
Yeah, we've been known to take summers somewhat off. And part of the reason why was because it's always harder to get guests on in the summer.
Yeah.
People got families and vacations, and sometimes the last thing you want to do is
and we like to do things
come podcast
in the summer.
But here's the deal. I just think, as you've noticed, as people who are listening, they probably noticed, we have done more podcasts solo.
Have we?
Well, we've started to introduce more.
What's our ratio? I don't know.
You know, my goal is, I think I've gotten a lot of feedback that people like when you and me just jam sometimes.
Just jam.
Because I was always under the impression, just through my own thoughts, that people always want a guest. And then I started to notice that I would get more personal comments, like people who I just like am walking around and I see or talk to, like, oh, I love that episode where you and Mark just like broke that thing down.
Oh, really?
So it was less of us like diving into not that people don't like the founder operator guests that we have on, but I would love to, as we're just saying,
thanks
this
for
right
all
now,
the support.
Please,
everybody.
This is just anecdotal feedback I've received from people who either DM me from time to time or text me or whatever.
We just want to provide value.
We just want to be here for you.
Yeah. If you don't like us, we'll bring in other people.
Yeah, we'll bring in other co-hosts.
Yeah.
We'll bring on a third co-host.
Yeah, you let us know what you want. Let the people decide. We are a democracy.
Yeah, we are a democracy here at the Unstoppable Marketer. But we're excited to be back. Thank you for all those. We just wanted to like give you guys something to wait for 2 weeks to just be so stoked. So if this isn't our most downloaded episode of the year.
That's right. We just wanted to create a little tension.
Yeah, a little tension, a little FOMO.
What's going on?
Yeah.
A little suspense.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll do a giveaway at the end of this. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we should do it. Should we do a giveaway?
We should start doing some fun stuff like that.
What should we give away?
We can give away lore jewelry.
Let's give away some jewelry.
Or we get some bestie swag.
Some bestie swag?
Yeah. I'm repping the newest piece right here that has yet to come out.
I guess we could reach out to some prior guests too.
For what?
For a giveaway.
Oh, like have them say, hey,
yeah, like
Mountain Ops.
We can throw up some recognition.
Maybe we should start doing that. Maybe we should start doing like if somebody comes on,
yeah,
we're like, hey, you got to bring a gift for the audience.
It'd be cool to do it live, like a radio show. You have to call in.
We could do an IG live. Like we could set up the IG
fun.
Live right here while the podcast
Caller
is
number
going.
10 gets free tickets to Lollapalooza.
I haven't done an IG Live in a really long time, so we could do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, people should be doing them.
Yeah.
So you should be doing them. I guess I should be doing them too.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do that next time. I can do that.
That'd be fun.
That'd be kind of fun. We'll brainstorm that one.
Yeah,
but you got to download the episode.
We'll put a little more thought into it.
That's the problem, though, is I can't go in and see. You can't see who downloads it. Like the analytics doesn't give you that. You can see how many downloads. So you'd have to figure out how we do that giveaway.
It'd have to be live. Or it'd have to be you set up a bestie quiz.
Yeah, we could do something live. It's like, hey, you have to be on live and maybe you go rate the podcast or something like that because I can see if you rate it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Review.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll get something.
We'll figure it out.
But I think there's room for stuff like that in the world of marketing is to incentivize people, you know?
I think so
free
too.
Things.
Yeah, free things.
I know it was a little overplayed back in 2018, but I think there's room for it to come back.
I think it was overplayed, but only because it became so... What's the word I'm looking for? It became industrialized in a way. It became stale.
Well, oh yeah, it's like
it wasn't fun.
Like, comment, to tag 3 friends and follow.
Yeah.
And it was all the same.
It became such a templated format.
Yeah.
I don't think it was fun. Like giveaways are fun. Like you can have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately I think the 2020s are the 1980s.
The 2020s are the 1980s.
Yes.
Okay.
People want fun.
Yeah.
You know, girls just want to have fun.
They want to have fun. Yeah. Maybe it's like,
and maybe
hey,
I don't.
Whoever leaves the funniest, most witty, like review, or something like that, gets the free whatever.
Yeah. See, that's fun.
Yeah. Well,
right, because the 80s was fun. I mean,
I was born in the 80s.
I was born in the 80s.
I lived there for 2 years.
Yeah, I was there for,
and it was a blast for those 2 years.
I was there for half a year.
Yeah. That 6 months was awesome.
That 6 months was phenomenal.
Some of the best times of your life.
Def Leppard was at its peak.
Probably.
Just kidding. I don't know. 1989. Def Leppard was probably not at its peak.
I bet they were on the down from
But
there.
if you look at the 80s, right, that's like big hair, fun. Kiss was at its peak, but then the 90s comes in and it's like grungy.
I think that
and dark.
I think late 90s, all these people you're talking about are
declining.
Whereas you're having maybe like a Nirvana that is peaking.
Right. But it feels like maybe it feels like people are looking for fun.
I think so too.
Right? COVID was depressing. The world is kind of depressing in general.
Right now. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think people want some fun. Like people don't want to be depressed on social media.
I think so too. Speaking of social media, have you seen this clip of the Boston Celtics win the championship? Right? NBA playoffs. They're the National Basketball Association
lame finals
championship. And
championship.
Jason Tatum, there's like these viral videos going around about him like mimicking what every other champion has done or said over the past like 15
including
years.
a Kanye West quote.
Yeah. It's like what is that quote?
The meme for those who don't know, it was
guess you'll never
Jason
know.
Tatum is everyone but Jason Tatum.
Yeah. So the question is, we were talking about this earlier before we were recording, which is Jason Tatum, so essentially what he's doing, like just to give you some examples here, it's like, you know, there's a clip of Steph Curry after they just won a championship, I can't remember which one. They say he says what are they going to say now? As he's like spraying champagne. I have a sneeze that's coming on. I don't know when it's going to hit, but it's very, very close to hitting.
A sneeze. Do you get the hiccups too?
I had the hiccups last night.
Really? Do
Yeah.
you know how to get rid of them?
I mean, I've heard of ways to get rid of them.
I have not had hiccups in probably 15 years.
Really? Like never, just for like 20 seconds?
Like I'll get a small start and then I can get it to stop immediately.
How?
You have to I'm trying to teach my wife to do this, but she just laughs trying to do it. She just, I don't know. She won't take my teachings. You have to suck in 3 times. So the second it happens, you just gotta.
Really? Interesting.
I did it. I've just done that naturally for 15 years, but then.
Did you just do that and it worked once and then? Or did
I just did
is
it
that
naturally.
science?
I don't know why. Like,
Okay.
you know, like how when you get too much carbonation, you're kind of like,
Yeah.
I just started doing that whenever I try to hiccup, and then
Every time I get the hiccups, I always worry about. There was a guy who.
and then you hold the breath. By the way,
Okay.
it's like in 3 times, hold
And
the
then hold
breath,
it.
let it go. No, it's gone.
There was a guy who's had got the hiccups once and it never went away. Have you heard about that guy? I think he's on Ripley's Believe It or Not. Remember when they used to do those Ripley's Believe It or Not shows?
Yeah, but apparently, is it Barry Sanders or is it Bo Jackson? I don't know. There's an athlete that this has happened to, and he won't make public appearances anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Don't quote me on that. I'll find it. We'll put a post out.
Well, every time I get the hiccups, I'm always like, am I that guy? Like, am I going to be that guy? Because he was just talking, like, I listened to an interview. He's like, yeah, the last thing I remember is I ate a Subway sandwich. And then the next thing I knew,
Yeah, something's going to cause a lifelong.
Okay, anyway,
ailment.
Jason Tatum, social media. Let's tie this back. Okay, he's copying these things like that they're saying,
Yeah.
you know, or doing. It's like, you know, he's posing the same way that Kobe Bryant posed when the Lakers won a championship. He's doing all these things. And so there, yes, the meme is Jason Tatum is everyone but himself. So the question is he copying these people willy-nilly, or has social media infected so many minds, especially younger minds that just like grew up on it? And when I say younger, I mean Gen Z and below, who just like social media has always been a part of their life, versus millennials. It became a part of our life, when we were like 18 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
So is it the fact that social media is just taking the personality away from people? Because they don't have their own identities. They take on other people's identities.
Yeah. It's a good question. I guess my hot take is like no one's really original anyways. You know what I mean?
Or if they are, they're not willing to be.
So if you take, we talked about this a little bit just with people's speech patterns. Everybody is copying something. Babies copy their parents. Teenagers copy the media. And so is he doing it? I guess the question is, did he copy all of these lines consciously?
Right.
And rehearse them, and then like when he won, he repeated all of those lines?
That was like way cool. I want to say that too.
Or is he also, or is that just what was ingrained in him because that's what he grew up on?
Right.
He grew up on social media watching Steph Curry because of what? He's only 25, right? 24, 25?
Something like that, probably.
He's young. So, you know, we're not talking about, I mean, I know he's an adult.
Yeah.
But he's still a young guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to go too hard on him, but it is a good question just in terms of what is the impact of, he's 26.
Okay.
What's the impact of social media on personalities?
Yeah.
Well, there was that study in Germany where a bunch of people started going to the doctor with Tourette's syndrome. Did you hear about that?
No.
So in Germany, a bunch of people started copying a TikToker, and they started having, quote, symptoms of Tourette's, but the doctors were like, "You don't have Tourette's."
They're
like
just giving themselves Tourette's.
They were just giving themselves these tics because they were copying what they were seeing on social media.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, because I grew up watching, like, I always wanted to be either a professional snowboarder or a professional wakeboarder, like from probably the age like 11 to 18. That was like my goal in life.
And hence you had the bleach tips, and
I did it all. But I watched every snowboard movie. I watched every, and I hung around snowboarders and skaters. And so like even today, like my lingo is very much what their lingo was. I use dudes. I use stoked.
Yeah, but most people do.
I use
our generation. I don't think that's unique though. That's what I mean. I think most people.
Yeah.
Our generation grew up with Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Yeah.
Which might be one of the best video
game
games
ever
of all time, right?
Maybe next to Blitz, NFL Blitz.
Yeah, maybe next to NFL Blitz.
Yeah.
But I grew up skateboarding a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was really in the skate crowd a whole lot because I also grew up playing a lot of sports, but everyone just said stoked and dude and slay.
Yeah. It's very interesting. So none of us have our own personalities anymore. But I also do notice this when I create content.
Maybe we never did.
I mean,
have you ever wondered if you just are going to wake up one day and everything was a dream? Shutter Island style.
But I notice this with content creation for me, like I've gone through these like big ebbs and flows as a person who creates content. Is at first when I wasn't when I wasn't doing it with my face, I was doing more carousel like information stuff. That was very easy for me to be myself. Like I just kind of, because I'm just writing stuff that I know, and then I'm designing it with the little design skills I had. But then the moment I started showing my face, I was very much inspired by 3 or 4 creators who were doing that. And then I got to a point where I started noticing that I was almost copying what they were doing. And so that was like one of the biggest catalysts to get me off of consuming good content creators' content, because I can't not try to be like them. Like I just mentally, I'm like, oh, this is how I should do it too. And it's like, that's exactly what they did.
Do you know who Marlon Brando is? Yo, Tal, do you know who Marlon Brando is? He's one of the...
Do you know who he is?
I don't, actually. I just heard his name. No. Marlon Brando, he's like one of the most famous actors of all time.
In what? Name a movie.
The Godfather?
What character?
Apocalypse Now? You don't know who Marlon Brando is?
Who in Godfathers? I know the Godfather. I've never seen
the
Apocalypse.
Guy. He's like the...
He's the main... Okay.
The main guy.
Well, so yeah, I know...
The leader, the mob guy.
Yeah, so I know who that is.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't do the voice. But as he got older, he kind of became pretty... I don't know what... I'd define it as embittered. Like he was disenfranchised with acting in general. Like he didn't think it was that great.
He didn't think he was?
No, he thought he was great, I think, but he started just saying things like, whatever, like acting's whatever, and it's bad for you. Or there's a quote somewhere, I'll find it, but he basically says like you're always putting on
a face,
like you're always pretending to be other people.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered with actors, just to go with what you're saying, I've always wondered if maybe the hardest part about being an actor is like if you're always pretending to be other people, like wouldn't that take a toll on your psyche?
Dude, it'd kill me. It'd kill me.
Like, I know it's play, but if you're doing it as a job, you're doing it a lot.
Well, and if you want to do it, if you want to be the best actor, you gotta take it more serious than a 9-to-5 job.
You'd have to, which is why Daniel Day-Lewis, who is also maybe considered the greatest actor of all time.
Yeah.
One of them. I mean, he has the most Academy Awards, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
He's a method actor, but if you look at his acting career, Daniel Day-Lewis, because he was in The Last of the Mohicans and Gangs of New York and, more recently Lincoln, and then he did that like seamstress one. I don't know what that one was called, but he takes time off. Like he goes all in on these characters. Method acts. Like he becomes that character. There Will Be Blood. Did you ever see that one?
No.
You never saw that one? I will drink your milkshake.
No. But I saw Gangs of New York and Last of the Mohicans,
but he takes tons of time off. Like he'll go all in on these roles.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he does that. I don't know. I'm just curious. I wonder if he does that because he goes so far deep into being this character, this person, that he kind of has to step away and recalibrate for a year or two.
Regroup himself.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like I know no one's ever like totally come out and said exactly why Heath Ledger died. But they say that he was so
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if
into that.
watching the interviews with his fellow actors, I don't know if that one's totally true.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know either. Like I
but
said,
yeah,
nobody's come out. That's what I think people have assumed. Like he became the Joker and then died.
Yeah, maybe.
But
R.I.P. But yeah, it's just interesting. So I wonder again, like everyone's imitating everything. At all times, we're imitating something.
Yeah.
So how true? I mean, this goes into philosophical points about free agency and will, and if it even exists.
Yeah.
Or are we just robots? But
yeah,
we don't have to get that deep today.
No, let's talk about.
Speaking of robots,
marketing.
though.
Here we go.
I have something about robots.
Oh, I thought you were gonna somehow. You always have a great idea, a great way of saying. Speaking of robots, marketing is da 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 da.
Well, speaking of robots,
Yep.
My autopilot function in my Tesla is gone today. Today's the last day. No more autopilot.
Why?
Because I had the 30-day free trial for the full self-driving.
Oh yes.
Autopilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to renew it.
What did you think?
It's a fun party trick. But it made me remember the conversation we've had in the past about what is, I think the clinical term is called highway hypnosis, when you drive places and you don't even realize where you've been for 2 hours and you wake up.
And all of a sudden you're in the parking lot and you're like, what?
You're like, uh-oh.
How did I get here?
Did I fall asleep?
Did I hit somebody?
Like, what was I thinking about?
Run a red light?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And social media and the parallel there, right? You don't go into full highway hypnosis because you're just constantly being stimulated on social media. So you're not necessarily like, I don't know where I've been for 2 hours or like what I was even thinking about. But you do find yourself in rabbit holes where you're like, what am I doing? Like, why am I just impulsively swiping at this point?
Right.
And as we've talked with a lot of people in social media and marketing, everyone right now is trying to figure out how to storytell, but also how do we capture attention again?
Yes.
Because capturing attention is becoming harder and harder and harder.
Yes, this is a good point. We have talked a lot about storytelling, and you're hearing a lot of people talk about the importance of storytelling, but they're forgetting a piece of the puzzle of how storytelling doesn't really matter unless you can get them to listen to the story.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a problem there.
There's a problem.
Yeah.
So how do you draw people in? And I think one of the biggest questions that I hear is, well, maybe it's not a question. This is just me diagnosing problems that companies have, or maybe the way they interpret what a hook is or isn't. So a lot of people say, oh, it's got to be super organic.
Give us an example of what that means.
A super organic is, it's just got to be, well, it's interpreted in two ways. It's either, it's just got to be real and authentic.
Yep.
So face, mirror, camera, somebody talking, trying to be organic, going through the motions, right?
Yeah.
It's got to fit within the social media feed. It's got to look like a natural post.
Yes.
Okay. Or it's got to mimic some kind of trend or some kind of organic trend.
Yeah.
So that's what I think most people interpret. Would you agree?
A hook.
An organic looking hook.
Yeah. Native.
That
term was a very big buzzword in 2018.
Yeah.
Native advertising.
UGC.
Yeah. How do you make this look organic? Like it's not an ad, but it is.
Yeah. Ads that aren't ads.
The problem is and that was that. Here's a really important thing about hooks is, not all hooks are created equal within time. What I mean by that is that what you're talking about is this native, natural hook was something that was actually really good in 2020, 2021, because not very many people were doing that.
Yeah, and it's still not good or bad. I think that's what I think the biggest miss on companies' parts is that they're trying to follow certain templates without reading the waters. And what I mean by reading the waters and speaking of hooks is, you don't fly fish.
No.
But have you gone fishing? Well, speaking of hooks, there's a lot of hooks in fishing, right?
Lures.
And anglers, fly fishermen and women, the good ones. I'm not great. I'm okay. Right? You have to figure out what the hatch is. So it's seasonal. Like you can't just use the same hook.
See, this is time. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, you can't use the same lure or the same fly
in August as you can in February.
In February. So for example, we got hopper season coming up. That's when all the grasshoppers and hoppers, right, come out. So at my cabin, it's a small stream with native cutthroat. They don't get very big, but it's beautiful, fun fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, there's no hoppers up there. So like if I'm throwing a hopper, like I'm not going to catch anything. The fish aren't going to bite. So what I have to do is you have to go down to the creek. You have to pull out a rock and see what the hatches are. So if you know the lifestyle of insects, right? Like a lot of them lay their eggs in the streams and the rivers. They hatch into nymphs and then they eventually pop out as the flies. Like it's like a mayfly, for example. And so you can look under those rocks and identify what the nymphs are. And so then you can use whatever that fly would be and then use what's called a dropper. So you tie another little piece of line with a little nymph hook at the bottom. And that's called a dropper setup. So you got to identify like what's actually working in the season and what the fish are eating. So it's not a perfect, it's not a perfect parallel for marketing, but I think it's a good parallel in the sense that too many people said, "Oh, it's hopper season, like it's organic season. Let's just use UGC."
Yep.
And sure, like that's part of your arsenal, but like the great fishermen out there, the great fly fishermen, right? They have a box full of different flies.
Yeah.
It's not just one or two flies. They have a whole box full of flies, and they can identify what kind of fly they need to use on any given day.
Yeah. I like the metaphor.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
You know what's also interesting about really great fly fishermen?
No, what is?
Well, the ones that catch a lot understand that most people identify fly fishing as like a dry fly sitting on top of the water and a fish coming up to it, right?
Yes.
But the great fishermen know that almost all of the fish diet happens underwater on the nymphs that are floating through.
Oh, okay.
So if fish are always eating under the water, but you're only aiming on top of the water, you're going to miss 80% of your opportunities.
Huh.
So the great ones, that's why Euro style right now, if anyone wants to look it up, is popular because you can catch a lot more fish when you get good at it.
Interesting.
Shout out to Gilbert Trolley. He's a Utah guy. We'll bring him on the podcast.
If he ever listens to this
He's a
podcast,
videographer.
We'll be thrilled.
I follow him. He's phenomenal. But the point being is they know that, hey, the fish are underwater and we got to meet them where they are and also provide them something that they're going to be interested in.
Yeah.
And so most people get stuck on fly fishing like beginners, right? Like they're just using one or two flies and like, oh, I'm not catching a lot.
Yeah.
And marketers do the exact same thing. They get stuck in one type of hook.
Yeah.
Without trying to figure out, well, most of the attention is under the water.
So what if we talk about, so if
we're doing surface level.
Yeah. So to keep this conversation going and to make it like valuable here, what are ways what are some things that you do to identify if a hook is working good? Like what would you view as a good hook? Right. And we're talking organic videos and we're also talking paid videos here.
Yeah.
There's hooks for both. What are some things you're looking at from a paid perspective?
Well, we like to look at hook rate.
Okay.
Or hold rate.
Explain what that means.
Basically, are people paying attention to your ad within, what's the 5-second hold rate or 3-second hold rate?
Yeah.
That's how you know if people stopped and watched.
Yeah.
But right after the hook, right, there's something that also happens with fly fishing is you have the hook and they go for it, but you still have to set the hook.
Yeah.
Which is drawing the fish in. So it's you got a lot more work to do besides just what fly or lure you're using.
For sure.
Same thing with marketing. So you have the hold rate.
Yep.
Are they taking the hook, but then what are you doing to reel it in?
Yeah.
And that's the storytelling. That's the selling.
Yep.
But you don't have to sell in the hook.
Yeah.
I think that's where people get mistake. You're not trying to necessarily tell a story or lure the whole fish in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You're just trying to say, hey, what are people interested in and how do I catch their attention?
Yeah, I do think a lot of people are getting so caught up in like, how do I sell them and let them know exactly what they're going to get in these first 3 seconds? You know, here are 3 ways I've lost weight.
Yep.
You know, that's very salesy and a hook that worked really good however many years ago. But now that kind of stuff you see is so overplayed.
Yeah.
That it's not hooking people or setting the hook either.
That's right.
Right.
And you have different buyers too, right? So like you have different people and different sales cycles. And so static imagery, which is very direct and like you're just selling something, works to the right people who are ready to buy it and they're hungry for it.
Yeah.
But for people that might be a little bit more difficult, that aren't hungry,
more at the top of the funnel.
More at the top of the funnel, as some might call. I know the funnel might be outdated in terms of the actual consumer
but
journey.
When we say top of funnel, we mean more so people who are
less
ready to buy, like more inclined and ready to buy what you're selling versus people who are not.
Yes. And top funnel is people are not.
Yeah.
They might not know
whether
who
that
you
means
are.
They don't know who you are.
Or that they even have the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
And so you can't educate them without actually making them care about what you're doing.
Totally.
And so a hook can be visually stimulating, right? It can be something they're interested in. It can be literally thousands of different things.
Sure.
But everyone focuses on one thing. Oh, organic. So we're going to do UGC over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's starting to die, so why not? So like you have to diversify. You got to diversify your fly box.
Yeah.
You got to get different flies in there.
Yeah, I was talking to Leo Olson, who we've had on the podcast before. He's a master storyteller, great hook artist. You know, he's good at all of the above. He's helped several brands make lots of money, and he's helped several people build their personal brands. And a couple things he's talked to me about before have been you can do. A hook doesn't always have to be the words you're saying. A hook can be something that you do visually or something that you do from an editing perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, what you say should be interesting enough too, but there's something that can stop stop you in your tracks based off of, hey, why is that person standing that way? Or why did that cut split screen all of a sudden? Or, I mean, there's several different visual types of hooks that you can test and do. As well as the other thing he said has been very interesting is when people have a good enough story to tell, sometimes just starting into the story rather than these like, here are 7 ways, or here's how I lost something, or here,
like giving a synopsis and then going into it.
It's more so just like,
well, this goes back to like the fireside chats.
Yeah.
Like the most interesting stories you hear in your life are intimate conversations you have with other people generally.
Yeah. You'll never believe what happened to me yesterday.
Yeah.
That is kind of like a gotcha hook a little bit, but
it is, but
more so like, dude, yesterday I almost got hit by this car.
Yeah.
I was walking down the street, blah, blah, and then you go into that story.
Right.
And oftentimes those like fireside moments are very relatable. You know, like, oh, I've almost gotten hit by a car. Oh, that's great, So, yeah, he just says like sometimes when you just go into the story, right, and you just like that person is almost the person watching it is almost like, oh, do I need to be interested in this? This person he's not giving me this 3-second synopsis of what's going on. It's just,
well, a good example of that, like you said, just to reiterate, is you could say, yesterday I almost got hit by a car. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of putting the and there's a template out there. It's like climax, storytelling, and then like so you're actually putting the climax at the beginning.
Yeah.
But jumping right into the story would be, yesterday I was walking down the street and
I almost got hit by a car.
Then this happened.
Yeah. Yep.
So I like that because depending on your audience, one or the other might work.
Totally.
And that's the beauty of testing. Like, it's never been easier to test different kinds of hooks. And yes, I know things change a lot, but human behavior and psychology isn't changing that rapidly.
No. But what changes is
people get used to what hook is out there.
Exactly. Like, people get used to,
which, by the way, also happens with fishing, right? If you have too many fishermen go to one spot, the fish eventually get spooked and they just sit at the bottom. They're not interested anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because it's like, okay, fool me once, but
yeah, I mean, this just goes back to, I mean, it's funny. I don't think us talking about this whole social media Jason Tatum thing, like, that was more just like a funny discussion. But what's interesting is we're kind of going, like, that conversation's to me coming a little bit more full circle, which is we're all just doing the same things that everyone else is doing. We get so caught up in, oh, hey, True Classic Tees, which is this $100 million brand, is doing it this way. Therefore,
I need to do it that way.
I should do it this way.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's wrong to do, especially if you can catch people who are succeeding in the early times.
Sure, it's not wrong to do, but I think the message here is you have to learn as a marketer and as a business to operate off of first principles. Right? You have to be able to diagnose your situation, not just repeat what you see someone else doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, True Classic Tees, that's phenomenal what they've done.
Yeah.
But the chances are that you can just copy a few of their ads and find success is probably slim.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say you can't try it. Again, like, this goes back to testing. We're not saying don't test things.
Yeah, don't
find inspiration.
Yeah, by others.
But again, like, you have to be able to sit back and diagnose what kind of river and what kind of season you're fishing in.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep bringing back the fishing analogy. Yeah.
I actually thought, like, sometimes you stretch things, but this was good. I thought this one was really good.
Yeah, I liked it.
I think you nailed the metaphor personally.
Yeah, it's gone great.
And you taught me a little bit about fishing.
Yeah, we'll have to go.
Yeah, absolutely. One day.
I'm going this week.
One day. I will come fishing with you.
I'm going to go mousing this week, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, mousing is exciting. You have to go at night, though.
Yeah.
You have
That's
to go.
too freaky for me.
No, you just got to have a little Red Bull, maybe. It's a little spooky at night, going up to a river in the mountains with no one around. Might be a serial killer out there.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
But you catch some hogs. Or you get skunked.
Yeah, I've heard some crazy serial killer stories about, like, up in the mountains.
Really?
And people. Yeah.
Up in the mountains? Nah.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. I just take my trusty old dog and...
Yeah, if you have a dog, then that's very helpful.
Yes,
I would think.
It is.
Personally.
But to get back to the point, you have to operate off of first principles. So what do we mean by operating off of first principles and being able to diagnose it? It is, you have to start with, what is the river you're actually fishing in? Because every river or region has different kinds of fish, right? And different seasons and different kinds of bugs. So you have to realize, hey, True Classic Tees is over there fishing in, I don't know, like Appalachia, West Virginia, but I'm fishing over in California. It's not going to be the same because they're probably fishing for, I think they got brown trout out there and stuff. And like brown trout are, an invasive species technically.
Or to kind of take away from the fishing stuff for a second. It's like
salmon steelhead over in California.
They're like True Classic Tees, because of their success, like they're fishing in waters that are prepped for them right now.
Yep.
Right? Where like you could be $100,000 brand and you have to, you're prospecting significantly more.
But also, you got to. I think you reel it back even further. Pun intended. It's True Classic Teas is operating off of a first principle, which is where they identified a very relatable problem and specific type of customer.
Yeah.
Which was your everyday guy
Your
who
average
couldn't find a
dude.
good fitting t-shirt.
Yep.
But also didn't want to be like a gym fanatic to get a good fitting t-shirt.
Right.
Like that was their whole business model.
Yep.
So they operated off of, oh, hey, we know what these people want.
Yeah.
And now we're going to build our strategy and our marketing and our company around solving this problem.
So they identified their audience and its problem.
Yes, which was, hungry fish.
Yeah. And the fish, it's like, okay, who's the audience? It's trout. What are they eating?
That's what we're doing. So they're not just fishing in waters that were ready for them by luck.
Yeah.
Now, there's always a little luck involved, right?
Sure.
Even in fishing. But if you're watching them have success, well, take a step back and realize, hey, what am I actually trying to provide? What's the problem? Okay, and who are these people and what are they interested in?
How do you figure that information out?
Well, for one, you just talk to your customers. I know we harp on that all the time.
Yeah.
But if you know who your customer is, let's just assume you're selling to women, and be more specific than that, right? Let's just say you're selling to women between the ages of 25 and 45. That's your main target demographic who struggle with getting out of bed in the morning. Like that's how deep you need to go in terms of that's how specific you are.
Yep. Or stay-at-home moms that aren't working.
We have instant energy packets for moms that can't get up in the morning because they were up all night with a kid.
Yeah.
All natural energy packet that's good for you, whatever.
Totally. Yep. Yeah. So talking to your customers.
So you know who they are. So they're women. They're tired.
Yep.
So now how do you create content and hooks for women who are tired, who are going to social media for a break from their day because they're tired and they're just like monotonously scrolling.
Yep.
That's how deep so that's what we're talking about operating from first principles. And then you start testing it. Like you're testing out your flies, your hooks to see, hey, what's holding people? And I know people out there on social media will say like nothing matters but CPAs and ROAS.
Yeah.
And that's true. At the end of the day, yes, you got to sell things, but you got to look at hook rates to see, hey, if your hook rate is holding people, but then you have a low click-through rate, then maybe the offer or maybe the explanation wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have a good hook rate and a decent hold rate throughout the video and a high click-through rate and then a low conversion rate, well then
maybe the expectation is not met from
the
hook,
ad
video to destination.
To destination.
Yeah.
And that's how you start diagnosing the journey. Like what's wrong with what I would call reeling in the fish.
Yeah.
Like why do you keep letting it slip?
Yeah.
Which happens a lot in fly fishing, right? Like you can let a fish slip if you're not holding the line the right way, if you're not keeping the line tied, if you're not doing it. So
right.
And also you can let it slip at the end, like right when at the net. Right? You're trying to net the fish and sometimes that it gets loose and it can slip away right at the end.
Right.
So you got to diagnose what is wrong
throughout the steps.
In order to have a complete picture. But again, with hooks in general, you're looking at that hook rate and you're saying, is this catching their attention or not?
Yeah.
And if it is, then you can move to the next step.
I know a lot of these things we're talking from an ad perspective, but any like metrics you want to toss out there from like you talk a good hook rate is over 3 seconds. What is the percentage you want to see of that many people watching it for that long?
I don't want to give a percentage. What I want to say is just look at it yourself.
Yeah.
Operate from first principles. So look at what you're doing right now in your ad account or in your social media. Look at your social media, view metrics, in your organic channel and look at what your best ones are and your worst ones. Have an average and just beat your average.
Like it.
I think too many people want to look at
must be 25% or whatever.
Yeah, and again, you know, like Kim Kardashian's going to have a much better rate of all of these things just because people know who she is. So like her face is a hook in of itself. So you can't compare, like, again, don't go comparing to other rivers. Look at what you have in front of you and just do better than what your average is. And try to figure out why your best videos performed and why your worst ones didn't.
Yeah. I like it. Nicely done.
Yeah, that was short and sweet.
Tied the fishing very well into marketing.
Tied?
We tied the knot on that.
We tied the knot on that.
Hook,
yeah, we did. We did, right? We can wrap that up.
Yeah.
And we do need to wrap it up because I am drinking a lot of water and I got to go. Got to go to the restroom.
Yeah. And I'm really hungry.
Sweet.
We did it. We recorded. Sorry we were...
Round 2 tomorrow.
Yeah. Sorry we were late or we've been gone for 2 weeks.
I'm not sorry, but...
We're going to figure out...
I'm sorry if you missed us.
Yeah. Of course they missed us.
But I'm not sorry for being gone.
Yeah.
I'll just be honest.
Vacation. We were out and about. We were enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next Tuesday. For sure.
For sure. Ciao.
Thank you so much for listening to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. Please go rate and subscribe the podcast, whether it's good or bad. We want to hear from you because we always want to make this podcast better. If you want to get in touch with me or give me any direct feedback, please go follow me and get in touch with me. I am at the Trevor Crump on both Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, and we will see you next week.